5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is the Matrix?
Start me from the top, man.
Maybe it's the weed got me. Maybe it's these trees got me. Maybe it's these hoes got me. Maybe it's the stroll that got me. Maybe it's these clothes got me. Maybe it's these laws got me. Maybe it's my dogs got me. Maybe it's these bras got me. Maybe it's this man that got me. Maybe it's my clan that got me. Maybe it's my fam that got me. My plans. The Matrix.
When I wake up in the morning, I wake up in the morning, putting my read in my Bible paper. Lord, I can see him later. Middle finger up, always screaming, fuck a hater. Chewing on them suckers like annihilator. No hip hop, this ain't rock and roll. This is real music, pop like your soul. All aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, cause you are now tuned into What is the Matrix? TV. I am your most amazing host, Jason Elm Street Williams, master of the universe. And let's get into it. On Monday, we have Dr. King Holiday's birthday, the celebration of Dr. King. We have fires hitting California, the burning, the prophecies. So we're going to ask, what is Black History Month as we lead from January into February? Was Dr. King's dream a nightmare? So I'm going to start it with this. Dr. King's dream is not my dream. Dr. King's dream is a nightmare. But that's a question. We're going to ask about what's the difference between Dr. King and Malcolm X? And was integration successful, or was integration a failure on an economic level for so-called Black people and the rest of the world? Were Black people more successful economically prior to Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement versus 2025? So we're going to look at nation building versus being a worker. We're going to look into Noble Drew Ali, Elijah Muhammad. We're going to get into so much more. But first, we have a special guest coming from the Bay. We got Brother Danny in the building. Peace and love, brother. How you doing?
Man.
I think you got to unmute yourself.
I did. I got.
So what's good with you, brother? How you doing? Welcome to What is the Matrix TV.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Shoot, man. Peace and love right back at you.
Always, brother. So let's pop up a picture of Murdoch of the California fires first to get the ball rolling and see where our listeners and viewers are at right now. So Danny,
there ain't no pictures of the fires.
I thought I sent you one of the fire. Of the celebrity one.
If you did, it wasn't an actual picture because I put everything in and there's no fire picture.
Okay, what's popping up right now?
If I can find something.
See what you got on Dr. King or Elijah Muhammad first. So right here we have Dr. King's quote. I fear I may have integrated my people into a burning house. So right here, I want to ask the audience, was Martin Luther King correct in one of his last speeches when he reverted his I Have a Dream speech, when he said that he felt that although integration was going to pass, that he felt that he led our people into a burning house, meaning that we had more Black businesses before integration. We had Black banks. There was things like Tulsa, Oklahoma before that fire and burning took place. So we speak of economics. Single mother households weren't as rampant. We had Negro baseball and basketball leagues. So was integration successful for so-called Black people? And then what is Black? You know, we have to, for me, get off of the term as Black and white people and stop referring to ourselves as crayon colors. So, Danny, do you have any thoughts, anything when it comes to integration or Black History Month and Dr. Martin Luther King's teachings as we compare him to Malcolm X?
Uh, I would say Dr. Martin Luther King's and Malcolm X are kind of different, but taking from it, like in terms of integration, nothing but integration is probably the best result we could ask for, to be honest. I I actually kind of side with Malcolm X more or less, but um as far as the sentiment taken from Martin Luther King though, I you know, as far as the love and the the inclusiveness is concerned, like I totally embrace that.
I can dig it. You know, I say one of the greatest quotes I like from Dr. King is that he dreams of one day where people are no longer judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So for me, that's a quote that we all could live by, things that I always have to improve on. But then we have to look at it through a philosophical. Did Black people force themselves on racist so-called white people with integration? When Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad were speaking on being self-sufficient, doing for self, having our own schools, our own businesses, rather than Dr. King was telling his followers to go into places of business that said no Blacks, where they were getting beat, poisonous food, dogs sicked on them, versus Malcolm X, where there was a disciplined diet, there was a discipline in family structure, a discipline the way they dressed and conducted themselves. When we look at today, the Black community, it seems that brothers no longer dress a certain way, they don't carry themselves a certain way, and the criminal lifestyle is almost more celebrated in our community than being a leader in a sense. So we were speaking on interracial children and couples. How do you feel that integration helped with race relations uh, throughout the world and country when we were looking at the positive aspects of integration?
No, I mean, like from I mean, I'm actually, I'm more I got my limited experience. I'm interested in, like, kind of like, your take on it, and then your other, the other hosts and everybody else's take on it. But the truth of the matter is like, I think it's kind of like put out in a way where it's like a false dilemma kind of deal. And to me personally, like I said, I kind of more side with Malcolm X, to be honest with you, because he's black and white about it, and I can at least see where he stands on it, and I can at least say, the way he, positions himself politically, I can actually agree and assign myself to that kind of, take on it. Integration, Malcolm X didn't seemingly agree with integration, but if you were to look at his history as being a Muslim, he seemed to also kind of agree with the fact that if we all take a common cause, then, maybe perhaps we have, like, like middle ground to, like, settle on.
I definitely agree. Can we get some pictures up of Dr. King and Malcolm X, Murdoch? There's noise in the background. Oh, okay. So we already had this one, but on this day in 1964, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X met for the first time. And so a lot of people didn't realize that Malcolm X and Dr. King had never met for many years. And so opposing ideologies, but really with the same goal, with unification for all people. But in particularly, we're living in a time where Black people weren't able to vote. The school systems and the books that they were receiving, like my father, his high school diploma says graduate of Negro high school. So when we look at the textbooks, he said they would get the hand-me-downs from the so-called white schools. So he lets me know, he says, yes, I agree that integration was a failure, but at the same time, it was not equal. So I have to remember the fact that although it was separate, it was not equal. So when we get some more pictures going, Murdoch. So basically, when we talk about integration, right here, I look at Martin Luther King as teaching Black people to worship Jesus Christ. And that's, for me, the wrong way when you give an image of a God to worship outside of yourself. That subconsciously would make you feel less than, versus Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad's teachings. Let's get a picture of Elijah Muhammad up there as well. Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X's teaching taught us that the so-called Black man was God. And not only the so-called Black man, they spoke of the Asiatic Black man. Now, some might say that's the dark-skinned, straight-haired Hindu, but when we study India and the Incredibles, look up the Incredibles of India, when you look up Shiva, these are ancient gods with dreadlocks. So when we go to Asia, or Cambodia, or Angkor Wat, or the Philippines, or Malaysia, or Melon Asia, where the melanated Asians are, you will go to Fiji and all these other places, and you will see melanated people with flat nose and kinky hair all throughout the planet. So therefore, when Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad were teaching us of the Asiatic Black man, they were also speaking of Pangea, when all the continents were actually connected and there were land bridges. So Africa was connected to Europe at one time, Africa and Europe. So truly there is no Middle East. So if we can take the concept of the term Black and we use the word Asiatic, this refers to the term planet Asia, when this was not called Earth. And some civilizations say that the moon was recently put up there through a catastrophe. That's up for debate. But one thing we do know, that when we study pre-European civilizations in Asia, we find advanced, dark-skinned, woolly-haired civilizations all throughout Asia. And so then we learn about the Olmecs, and they have what? Slanted eyes like I do, which will lead us to the Sands people of South Africa, which are the phenotype of what you call the modern day Asian. So when Elijah Muhammad would refer, or Malcolm X refer to us as Asiatics, it gave us a culture which leads to the battle in the sky. So in the 1920s, Elijah Muhammad would scientifically break down the width, the length of these spacecrafts. And he said that one day our ancestors, he said that there were melanated beings flying these crafts, that Moors and Moors, basically in ancient times, had an aircraft, or an air force. So just like today, they have the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, so-called Moors and Moors, and those who are classified as African in pre-dynastic or prehistoric time, had advanced civilizations where we were able to harness electricity. Now imagine, they teach us in school that so-called Africans or Black people have been here for millions of years, but they don't teach us all about the advanced civilizations. Can you imagine being under the sun, on this same planet for millions and thousands of years, the type of mathematics and science that you would eventually develop if you were, I would say, uncorrupted? So when we study ancient Kemet or Tamare, known as Egypt, we talk about a land that was invaded many times, but also wasn't invaded. So right here, Dwight York, I want everyone to study Dr. Malachi Z. York. This is the difference between Martin Luther King and Dr. Malachi Z. York. Dr. Malachi Z. York built an entire compound complete with Egyptian-style pyramids and obelisks. And when the law enforcement of Georgia became suspicious and started looking on the land, this is when Dr. Malachi Z. York became more under attack, and they destroyed this land, because this is the goal, y'all. When we talk about separation, we're not talking about separation based off of racism. We're talking about separation based off of our cultures, because we have forgotten that we were enslaved on our own land. So when we understand that we are the Aboriginal people, not of just the planet, but America, like Malcolm X said, before I hand it off, Malcolm X is famous for saying, we did not land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And what he's saying is that when the Mayflower, the Europeans, Moors included, came to the Americas, there were already dark-skinned, woolly-haired Aboriginal people here. And that's the difference between Malcolm X and Dr. King. It's knowledge, it's culture, it's science, and it leads to the pyramids. And that's proof of an advanced civilization that we were not taught about in school. And for me, that leads to our freedom, no matter what color we are. We can solve the riddle to life, why we're here, our purpose, and what they call the afterlife, or the quantum world. We can do it right here, right now. So for me, Dr. King, although had great quotes, he was correct saying he led our people into a burning house, because our leaders are Black Christians. They're not people who practice the science of the pyramids and discipline on eating. Get a picture, Murdoch, I have of Elijah Muhammad's books. So this is the difference. When we talk about being able to write books, this is in the 1920s, y'all, where this man wrote a book, How to Eat to Live, teaching us that in the future there would be processed foods, fake foods that did not go with our so-called human avatar. This is why people are dying of cancer. This is why we're no longer innovative as a so-called human species, because the food that we're eating is fake. And then he wrote also the message to the Black man. They call it the Black Man's Bible, which teaches you that the Black man is God. So for me, that's a powerful statement when you can erase so-called Black people worshiping a pale-skinned European and begin to worship the image of themselves. Therefore, they will begin to love each other. Why would you want to kill, rob, steal, and dishonor your brother when you know that your brother is you in another form? Whether they're pale, blue, or red, when you understand that you are God and that we're made up of atoms, photons, neurons, and electrons, that gives us a better understanding of us as we the people, and then we can begin to progress. So what do you guys feel about the progression since the assassination of leaders like Malcolm X and Dr. King? Do you feel that society as a whole has declined?
Rapidly. Can you hear me? Is there an echo?
It's perfect.
Okay, yay. Hi, everybody. Had a little tech issues, but we're here.
Keep putting
Okay.
pictures up more. But
Okay,
go ahead.
so as far as a regression, first of all, peace, everybody, and hello to our guest. Hello, thank you for being here. I'm gonna say, okay, so when you were talking about the food and how to eat to live, which is so dope, I got to get that book for sure. When we went to the grocery store the other day, it was so funny because like we went inside the section where there was all these frozen foods, and I was just like, that food's not real. It's not going to do anything for you, until you got to the organic section where the fruits and vegetables were. That's when I became alive, because that's the foods that we need to survive. So interesting enough that he has a book, like you said, from the 1920s, basically giving us a code, like a heads up, like, yo, they're about to really mess up what you guys need to thrive, which is the food. The food is where the vibrations are. The food is what keeps us thriving. But yeah, it's that's just crazy how he already knew that. And here we are, fast forward 2025, and now we have to be taught how to eat because the food they've been giving us, it's not giving us any kind of like vibration. We can't even think properly. So yeah, interesting enough. I didn't even think of it like that, Jason, as far as Dr. King's message. I remember, okay, you gotta ask your grandmas and your parents, because some of your parents were there for that speech. And I remember my mom telling me, she said, I remember watching him when he was doing that speech, and he didn't even read the paper. He just went off the paper. So I don't know if, do you think, Jason, that something was sending him some kind of like message, or telling him what he was supposed to say?
Well, he had that speech by the obelisk. If we next time, I wish I had a picture in Washington D.C. The obelisk. We were talking about Egypt, but the CIA said this, and you guys can look this up. They said that one, they had all these brothers' phones tapped. They were being followed. So this is the 50s and 60s. COINTELPRO, y'all, check it out. So if citizens think they're being spied on now, these brothers were getting spied on in the 50s and 60s. So they said that Malcolm X was an angel compared to Dr. King. That's one thing I do. I try my best to be transparent. I'm not going to say I don't smoke. I'm not going to say I do this and do that. I try my best to be transparent. And that's what they say Dr. King was not. And not judging anyone. We're having these conversations because I feel the whole entire planet is stagnated. And here we go right here. So right here, look at who's around them. You think a black man is going to be allowed to speak to an audience that loud during that time if he's not controlled by the government? Telling black people to worship Jesus, telling black people to get spat on by dogs, telling them that they're less than, telling them that unless you integrate with white people, you're nothing. That's what he taught and convinced black people. So now we don't know how to eat because we're supposed to have our own education schools by now. We're supposed to have our own learning institutions, our own farms by now, our own industries by now. You got brothers playing in the NBA now, the NFL now, making other nations wealthy. So now Dr. King taught our people how to work. And you're not supposed to work for someone else. Your goal is to own your own business and eventually link up with like-minded individuals. For myself, the goal is to have the land, build up, have our own industries, our own factory, our own technology, our own food, create new recipes, new innovative art, technology, and then as a people, we will garner the respect from every nation across the planet, whether it's the Japanese, the Chinese, the Indians, those in Switzerland, all over the world will respect us as Mers and Moors again, because we will have a code of conduct. No longer a diet. I'm gonna call it a live it. We no longer. I have to improve as well. No longer eating to die, but we need to eat to live. Because for me, I'm learning more about purpose of life. When I bring up the pyramids, to me, why wasn't Dr. King and these brothers talking about pyramids? It's because these brothers were assassinated before their time. And this is why they give us these holidays. They give us these holidays to celebrate these people, just like the celebration of Jesus. You're worshiping the dead, and therefore you're not progressing. And I'm not saying every person watching this isn't progressing, but we are a collective. Regardless of your color, all of us, we're a collective. So when we worship Jesus as a collective, you're no longer innovating. You're no longer building on top of what Jesus or Dr. King or Malcolm left off. What was Malcolm teaching us before he got killed? And then I'm going to ask, Who was the teacher of Dr. King versus Malcolm X? Malcolm X had to answer to someone. That's why he got in trouble. People have to understand that when you're part of an organization and you have a leader or a captain, there's a ranking, there's a system set in place. And so when Malcolm X went on public national television and spoke ill about his teacher that got him out of prison, that gave him knowledge to become God, he broke an oath. He broke a brotherhood code. And any brother who played basketball or sports, you always knew if you guys got in a fight during practice or something, coach would tell y'all, hey, don't let the principal, I better not hear about this. This stays in the locker room. And that's what it was. And that's what that should have been. And so Malcolm X was suspended from the nation because you broke an oath. Like, damn, brother, why'd you do that? And so Malcolm X was apologizing. He was trying to get back in, but he had to do certain work. So he wasn't able to speak to they said white media, but we know who runs the media, right? And so eventually that's when they knew, okay, we can kill him now, because to the public's eye, it looks like Elijah and Malcolm and the nation are feuding. And that's why today, you can look it up, Malcolm X's daughter is suing the New York Police Department, the CIA and FBI, because it is a fact that the CIA and FBI were involved in the assassination of Malcolm X. So that means for over 50 plus years, the Black community and the rest of the world was psychologically put under a hypnotic spell and put into a time loop in a false reality by the murder of Malcolm X. What I mean is that when the government orchestrates a murder of a leader for the people that's bringing about innovative ideas and ways to improve our well-being and our way of thinking, and that's deliberately cut off by the people that are supposed to protect us, there's something wrong. And then you allow Dr. King to push that agenda of the Jesus worship, the Black Christianity, which is no, you can eat anything, you could kill, murder, do all whatsoever, and Jesus forgives you, instead of being a God and having to hold that responsibility. That's pretty hard. That's called discipline, and that's how you become a God. And that's the teachings of Jesus Christ, or Yahshua, Asar, Amun Ra, all these greats. They all teach you that God is within. And so now when we begin to build upon that, what do we create physically? For me, it's the pyramid. To me, it's not just a Stargate like an ancient airport. I was teaching everyone that the pyramids are actually professional machines used to astral project, and you are able to sit down, and through the pyramid being activated through water, hydrogen, and pointing up to certain star systems, you would be able to project your consciousness throughout different what they call star systems, which really are parts of your brain that are projected. So when we talk about Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, those are all centers of your brain.
And
So,
time loops cause trauma.
so Danny, I know I'm running my mouth. Murdoch, put up a picture. But what do you feel about the UFOs going on? Because a lot of you guys might not know, but in the 1920s, the Nation of Islam, and still to this day, they're considered a UFO cult. So how did these brothers know about the mother wheel, the mother craft? And then also, they say that when the mother crafts appear, a certain amount of us who are vibrating on a certain frequency will get picked up, and eventually the balls that you see in South America, those giant balls that they don't know yet. I want to see what that brother said. I didn't get to see, but basically those balls are going to get sucked back up into the mothership, and those that get picked up, they're going to destroy the so-called white man's world. And that's what They're
Wait, what
teaching
balls? What balls are you referring to? Because people are talking about, huh?
great balls of fire is what they're
Oh,
they talk about them when they talk about meteors and great balls of fire destroying the dinosaurs. But through our teachings, those were done by scientists to terraform the planet as well. So basically, this planet has been reset multiple times.
mm-hmm.
So, and when I say the white man's world, we got to remember that white and black are not colors, they're statuses. So it gets to deep. And one thing that I didn't rock with now that I'm wiser is what the nation taught is, some might say hate, but we cannot get caught up again in hating a group of people, meaning blaming so-called white people for our problems, even though we might be able to point out certain things. And that's the importance of separation, and that's the importance of having knowledge itself. So what do you feel about that, Danny, with Malcolm X, Dr. King, and some of the conversations we're having?
Well, okay, so I mean, like, I guess I'll back up real quick, just because, like, I don't think I even introduced the fact that you and I knew each other back in 2008, 2009, 2006, like
Yeah,
about like 15 years ago. And we had like a lot of opportunities to like have a lot of these kind of conversations, but to direct it towards Malcolm X is really difficult. What I would say, if you're to try to connect all what you're saying right now to him, I would say that Malcolm X said some remarkable things in uh, interviews that anybody can look at, and he basically said, in my opinion, that you should be careful what you hear from the media in general, and to base your conclusions on solely what you hear from the media could be problematic. Not just because we could misinterpret it, but they might be able to like mispresent it also. And I think he said more directly than I'm saying right now that you might want to be careful because there's a movement in America and within the media that arguably you know, might be involved in misinforming people. And specifically what you're saying is it might be like misinforming black people. I personally, I'm married to a black woman. My children are part black. It doesn't give me some sort of license to do anything ridiculous, but it just says, like, I mean, it's not like that far removed from what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis, more or less. But Malcolm X touched me before I was ever married like that. Like Malcolm X was very delineated in what he said. And if you're talking about UFOs or government intrusion, uh I thought he kind of spoke pretty directly to the sense that, you know, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. And if you're gonna, if you're gonna argue that the white man, so to speak, is bad, then we got to at least kind of like, build together and take our own, to account and move forward, as is. We're not going to like rely on anything, more or less. And I can respect that, white, black, or other, if you're going to shoulder everything like that. And you know I don't know if that really speaks to your question or your statement, but Malcolm X, to me, is a remarkable man, and I thought that he actually deserves way more visibility right now than what he gets. Martin Luther King gets it, and he deserves it. um he's a great man, he did great things, but Malcolm X doesn't really get the same kind of, you know
why do you feel
position.
that is? Why do you feel
Um,
that is, Danny?
he's a little too strong. I mean, you don't want that. He comes in very reasonable. almost every man would take the same position. So it's kind of
like our
scary.
Donald Trump. It's almost as if he's our Donald Trump, because it seems that black men aren't represented as men anymore. And I felt that Trump spoke to more of men, not necessarily just white men, but men. And I guess we've kind of had more feminine presidents recently, kind of soft, not. And Malcolm X was more, like you're saying, strict military style versus Dr. King. We shall over.
Turn the other cheek. Turn your other
Yeah,
cheek.
there you go. Turn the other cheek.
You injected Donald Trump. I mean, I wouldn't have done that personally, because it like brings like a whole bunch of feelings about everything, right? But what I think you meant to say was, like, you're saying that someone's or a human being's willing to like put their foot down,
Yes.
and you have, you got a guy like Donald Trump. He'll say, well, right, wrong, or other, I'll put my foot down. Me personally, and I'm just, and this is crazy, but what I would caution myself to think is like, okay, if it sounds too agreeable, I might want to really look at what's being said to me and by who's speaking about it. And I love a lot of things that a lot of politicians say, but you got to wonder if it sounds too good to be true, and then
Well, think of what do you feel? So if we had a Malcolm X today to go against a Donald Trump, to me that would be fair. It's like we don't even have, as so-called black men, a real knowledgeable representative who knows culture, science, can really speak on it. It's like they purposely eliminated a reality of brothers that exist. Like we get Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, Tyler Perry. It's like entertainers are our leaders. We had a picture of Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. I thought that was powerful because that was showing you how the nation was growing to where we had the baddest boxer of all time change his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. And, learn about what Ali means as the leaders, the days, D-E-Ys, or the bays, B-E-Ys, or the L's, E-L. Someone put a comment on the thing. I read the last, it said Elohim. I wasn't able to see it. Special guest. Welcome to What is the Matrix TV, Brother JoJo.
How you guys feeling tonight?
Hey, JoJo.
We're doing great. I don't know if you were able to tune in to what we're talking about right now.
I just got an opportunity to get down. I was happy I even got to get on the panel, man.
Good.
I was in a meeting.
So throw up some pictures that we got going on, Murdoch. But I wanted to get in a picture of the Negroid League as we build in the purpose of industry. The reason why I wanted to show you guys that is, imagine if we had not listened to the teachings of Dr. King and listened to Malcolm X and Elijah and Noble Drew Ali and these brothers, and maintained our industries, maintained our basketball leagues, our ball games, because we are the creators of the rubber ball games. They lied to us once again, like Malcolm and Danny was saying, in the media. In the media, they'll say that Naismith and all these other people created basketball, hockey, and all these other sports. But in all actuality, we can go to Mexico right now and you can find ball courts. And those were from the rubber people. And who are the rubber people? Who brought the rubber tree? Those from the where? Congo. And when we look at the Olmec statues, who do they look like? The Congolese, because it was Pangea. This was one land you were able to fly with your crafts, walk, all these different sail, all these different ways to walk all over the planet with advanced knowledge and information. So when we're able to own our own sports leagues again, that's wealth, y'all. So when we have our own land and we're able to build stadiums, do you think that people would come to see us play or others play? You see, that's where we have to start thinking on an economical basis. And that's when we have to once again look at the Dr. King. When you see him marching, put that picture up, Murdoch. And I want Jojo, I know you're
Hey,
gonna go.
hold on. What was the last thing that King said when he
Well,
died?
the burning house. We talked about that. We'll bring up that picture. It says, look at it in the back, y'all. It says, we march for jobs for all now. And now today, who is reaping the benefits of civil rights? It's not black people. Who benefited from affirmative action? Who's benefited from affirmative action, but now the civil rights? It's not black people. It's because we shouldn't have been fighting for civil rights. We should have been fighting for human rights. And that's what we can bring to the United Nations.
You know,
Not
before you carry on real quick, Brother Jason, I think that's real funny how you just said we should be fighting for human rights, because in the process of us being called 3/5 of a human, not only were we taken away from the humane rights of the rights to your passage of your property or to the property of yourself, within that whole institution, it had formed a void within the black narrative as far as what you have to accomplish. We had already had jobs, we already had this, we had been brainwashed into trying to fit into a society that was not designed for you to fit in, that became your objective. Like, my whole life from the day I died to the day I end is to fit in and don't piss off nobody. You're taught this slave mentality, and it's crazy. I just told my dad today, I said the only difference between a black man and a white man is the black man is the only one who knows he's in chains.
Me and Danny would talk about that in 2005 and have these arguments. The development, keep going on that, because that's what it is. And that's what the robots are going to hopefully not teach us the hard way, is that we got to stop arguing over race and color and all that, because we're all enslaved. They want to enslave us all, even the
And
water.
check this out, you guys. Check this out. The time that we focused our time, our efforts, and all of our energy to unify, as we say, to be equal and things like that, we lost the large parts of our own cultures.
Yeah.
As the whites were trying to merge with us, they don't even. Nick, can you tell me where you come from? No. Can anyone? No. The reason why is because you lost a large part of the history that was erased as you kept on the new narrative as to the superiority complex, as to though we're just better and whatever. So within that time that you lost your heritage and even your own lineage, we all somehow became binded in some chains. White people got binded to the broken ideas, while black people were broken to the broken societies. So again, trying to fit into a society that is not designed for you really had more backlash on all parties than you could really even say just one, in my opinion. What do you think?
Anybody want to chime in, Danny?
Was that if that was that directed at me?
Anyone? Go ahead.
No.
Oh, well, no, I would say that I would agree actually that for people to subscribe to the white and black designation, by default subscribe to just kind of like giving away your heritage, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of white people that do the same thing, and they call themselves white, um and they don't actually have any wherewithal as far as where you know their lineage or background might lead them towards. So I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think what's interesting is like kind of if you're open to really exploring where everybody's history's from, probably agreeably revolves around planet Earth. And then if you're doing that and you're talking about a million years, the chances that people traveled around the globe and married with other people is probably pretty high. So, I mean, Irish people, they call them Black Irish sometimes. I mean, I
Yes,
don't know why they call them Black Irish. I mean,
I do.
I didn't make the name up. I'll say that.
I know why
And
they call him Black Irish, but go ahead.
Why?
well, they got curly hair. I mean, they have black hair and they have curly hair. Most people say Irish people have red hair and freckles, and I did. Me
And
personally.
that's because Irish have Moorish descent, and that's
Well,
because you know
yeah,
the
no,
Scot.
I don't I, I don't disagree. I can't, I don't have any factual data to back it up, I will say that I've seen a bunch of Irish people that were, supposedly Irish, but they had like completely black hair and tight curls, which was awkward, because they're white. So
Love you, brother. Leon Carr, love that comment, God. I agree, brother. But keep
I
talking. To
yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the man. And I actually, you know, most of the people that you have on the panel, I usually agree with. To be honest with you, the well-spoken gentleman and the very attractive lady, both you guys put out really good messages, and everybody actually put out a good message. What I would suggest is if people were actually open to, I guess, just kind of, being open to being a student, I guess, in a general sense, it kind of tones it down in terms of like disagreement, more or less, because if you really open it up, you start realizing like too many possibilities exist where we're about to agree on something. And like with Irish people, you would never associate us with Africans, but then you start researching stuff and you say Moors traveled all over the world, right?
correct.
Okay, well, if they traveled all over the world, they might have traveled where the Irish people are too. And is it a coincidence that Jerome's, Jermaines, Tyrones, and Tyrese's, everybody named out of Jamaica, just happens to have an Irish name?
Hmm.
McKinney, McLeod.
Those are all Irish names if you wind it back 50 years. But now we got, other people named like that, and everyone wonders like, oh, okay, well, maybe that was just the way it always was, but it wasn't. And go
One
ahead
big
and
melting pot.
I mean, like, I mean,
No, you're exactly correct. And that's why they call the Irish Black Irish. They used to call Irish the N word, because before
I
they,
wasn't going there. Hey, yo, Jason, I'm not trying to cut you off, man, but
I know,
Egypt, Egypt used to have people travel
they,
upper everywhere, bro, and everyone intermarried with everybody.
well,
And it used to be
go ahead. My bad.
they there was intermarriage occurring through the course of human history.
Yes, yes,
People
and
just intermarried. I mean, you have Dominicans. No one can. It's called a diaspora for a reason.
give you that.
I mean, you got it through the Cajuns, Italians, Sicilians. You have it through the Filipinos, the Indians. You have it through North Africa and Middle Africa. You have it. I mean, it's around the world. I mean, like no one has a race designation for those guys, and it's because the Moors traveled around the world. They intermarried with anything and everything because that's what humans do. Like that's what we all do.
So, what do you feel we can do now as people in a collective to solve what's going on? What do you think is a solution? And Murdoch, put up a picture for us.
I don't have a solution, to be honest with you, man. The
Ooh,
way I look at it is like you just kind of you just got to be open to what reality is. That's all. I mean, like,
I'll ask you this
Start
question.
with yourself.
Put that picture
I'm
back
sorry.
up. This is a question to all you guys, even you guys watching. This is, and so we're talking about Dr. King, Malcolm X, Dr. Malachi Z. York. For me, I love brothers who are authors, musicians. I'm not sure of Dr. King's books, but I know Elijah wrote some amazing books. We know about Noble Drew Ali, but Dr. York, one of these books is God and Extra Terra Astral. Because when we say the word extraterrestrial or alien, a lot of the times we laugh and hear, oh, little green men, right? But look
Uh-huh.
at the word, look at it, because this planet was not called Earth. It once was called Asia, and it once was called Terra. So that's why they say Terra form. So an extra to terra astral. So a being from the astral realms that came to earth. These are facts, y'all. And look at that being. To me, this is how we look not too long ago, our ancestors, because originally we were green. And
Look
this,
like a Nigerian to me, brother Jason. Look
I'm
like
not, you said Nigeria. Well, and if you study the Nook from Nigeria, they have statues of beings that look like that, what we call humanoid reptilians or reptile
Mm.
beings. And so when
Literally.
you look at us, when we try, it's scaly. We get
Hold on. Hold on, because I'm gonna piggyback on that. Trust me, I'm getting there. But you
that's
taking
right.
the
So last week you spoke on plants. You remember that, JoJo? When you
yes, sir.
said how us with melanin were able to download and synthesize chlorophyll like plants, that's because we were originally green. But through the oxidation of the atmosphere, them cutting down the plants, changing the vegetation, and also when the nuclear war took place, there's still radiation in the air. And that oxidized our skin. And just like when metal rusts, it becomes what? Copper. I'm not, the skin color isn't black. I'm copper tone or bronze, skin of burnt bronze, skin of burnt brass. So originally we were green, and that's why they don't want you to go to Kemet inside of those temples that I've been to, because when you study Osiris and these brothers, they were green. There were brothers who were blue. Our skin colors change with the melanin, y'all.
Hey, real
And
quick, brother Jason. Real quick. I wanna reply to that panel because, man, you got so much information, but you got to go slow because you know me. You got to talk to me like a fifth grader sometimes.
I hear you.
So listen, you said is
Put pictures
God.
up top.
My bad. You said is God an extraterrestrial? I
Yeah.
think if we're gonna dumb this down for the panel, so everyone who's a Christian, so it says in the Bible we're gonna have a chariot of fire. This is that and the third. So let's just all dumb down a little bit. Let's look up together on the panel. Boom! You're looking up in the sky, see a freaking halo. You see, doesn't that kind of sound like a flying saucer?
Or a
Vicky was
dragon.
weird.
A
So
chariot of fire. So all I'm
yeah,
saying is if we are 3/5 by on paper by someone else's definition 3/5 human
right.
because we are extraterrestrial because we have these unusual abilities, well then evidently that can only find a conclusion if we're already here, that has to mean that God has to be some alien like form, does it not? Or at least, well, what our mind, the theory of God, we're conceptually idealizing. You know what I mean? There you go. Like the ideas, but as far as like the boom or whatever, I don't think that's describable.
And what is dog spelled backwards? Because you know we're supposed to read right to left.
God.
God.
Right. And they called us the black-headed dog people, the atomic
Mhm.
dog. Anubis represents us. We are Anu. We are the most high priesthood. Learn about Anubis, learn about the codes. That's why they say that we worship animals and all that stuff. That's for people who don't know the heavy science. This is all about you. So you're exactly right. So when we talk about extraterrestrials, and JoJo mentioned the Bible, God walked and talked, correct? So if that particular God walked, that's a physical attribute. Then when we get to the garden, God asked a question, right? And then let's get to the story of Eve. Eve ate the tree of knowledge. And
Mhm.
what did it make Eve? It made her wise like who? Wise like the gods, plural. So right there in your Bible, it admits that there are multiple gods in the garden, multiple gods in the garden. And that particular Elohim, which is, you know, brothers, is us. We were the ones who made the humans, y'all, by the way. We're the ones who made the other races using genetically engineering and all that, and build these avatar suits for us to experience this realm. We had to build spacesuits for our light being and our consciousness to experience this realm. And so that's why they don't want us to master the dream world. And they give us these holidays and dates to basically not allow you to elevate and to be innovative in your thinking. But when you understand that there's other extraterrestrials or there's other highly advanced intelligent beings throughout the universe, now you can't be controlled by religion. Now you start really questioning. Now you have evidence and say, wait a second, why
It ain't
is
looking right.
you
Something ain't
know
looking right.
so because the God of the Bible did what? He came down, correct? He came down and said, I'm coming to confuse the language. And so the God of the Bible said that the whole planet was speaking one language. Can you imagine how cool that is? Where you're not having to argue about something where, matter of fact, you might not even have to talk like this. It might be a
You were just to be. You were just there to be, like a being.
Love would have been able to
Human
survive a little
being.
bit
You were
longer
there to
because more
just
than
be and
human.
observe.
But when you don't
so,
understand each other by nature, you're not going to understand culture. You're not going to understand heritage. You're not going to
yes.
understand tradition. None of that.
And
So
that's
then,
what that God did. We got 5 minutes, and that's what that deity is showing us, y'all. That's the enemy, because the pyramids were built. We were communicating with our extraterrestrial ancestors, and a group of other extraterrestrials came, and they said they hovered and they dropped bombs on the planet and dropped bombs on the towers, the pyramids, so they no longer could communicate with the heavens. And the people began to babble and argue, and they went to different parts and regions of the world. And that's why you see pyramids all over the world, and you see similar sacred geometry all over the world,
It's
because
time to heal.
we are the gods who created the math sciences.
It's time to heal. So what you were saying, Jason? Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
real quick. So I was trying to say to it like 20, 30 minutes ago when you asked me a question. It's time for us to heal. We're in a time loop. So we've been in a time loop. If you notice, I don't know how some of you all are, but if you notice, these will get like a leader, and then we'll get a messiah, then they'll get rid of the messiah, and then we'll get another leader that's leading us down the wrong path. So we have to stop following the path that they're throwing in front of our faces, start going within, start the healing process, because this is trauma. You see all these fires, you see all these traumatic events that have been happening, and they're just going like 100 miles per hour every 5 seconds. This is trauma. So in order to get rid of trauma, it has to start with the food. It has to start with your live it, like Jason was talking about. Not a diet anymore, a live it. Paying attention to these signs, and start taking it back, because that's what we have the ability to do, one person at a time. It starts with the live it. You got to get the right fruits and vegetables in the body. You got to get light, and you got to balance out. That's the only way you're going to vibrate to the next frequency. It's a frequency war.
Go ahead, Jojo. Give us something while we close out these last 5 minutes as well.
for everyone who's watching the panel and for everyone who is on the panel, I want you guys to take roughly around 5 to 10 minutes with yourself. And I want you to just sit and ask yourself, how much have I accomplished? Not in a negative tone, but in a positive way to uplift yourself. Sit with yourself, explore yourself, and discover new things that you continue to hide. And ask yourself, why do you hide them? That's the challenge for the week.
But also give us some last thoughts on what you did feel about Dr. King compared to Malcolm X, Noble Drew Ali, and other great leaders, and for our people moving forward as the Martin Luther King holiday is Monday. What can we do to progress off of these teachings from Dr. King and Malcolm? And
Unfortunate,
that he did wrong.
Unfortunately, neither of them were perfect. All of them had their flaws, even on both sides. One said be progressive, the other said just be passive. Neither really is going to be effective for the growth and development for either parties, or really and more so for the Black community, because this is what the panel is for. I feel as if, though, we as a Black community need to be a little bit more understanding to the fact that we are not the only ones who know that this is a big matrix. So with the two of those people, I urge you guys to continue to be progressive, but be a little bit more understanding as trials and errors come up, because as you find out to these final days, we're all under attack. That's what I say on that.
And Danny, what are your thoughts on the overall build of this panel? And put that Elijah Muhammad picture up for me too, Murdoch, as we leave out.
Oh, and wassalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, my brother. Peace to you, God.
Shukran.
And we appreciate you, Danny, coming on, and we want you to come on anytime. And we need more input and different perspectives. So, give us your thoughts on solutions. Some of the pictures, and I don't know if we put this up. Elijah Muhammad was right. Pentagon says the mothership may be sending seeds to Earth. Pentagon officials suggest alien mothership in our solar system could send many probes to Earth. So everyone starts studying Elijah Muhammad. These are brothers before YouTube, before the media and TV. These brothers had the information of these crafts and what is to come. So, pick your discernment.
Alhamdulillah. Marhaba. And I would say that, to be honest, I would push forward for everybody to actually look towards Malcolm X a little bit more than what we've ordinarily done thus far. And I would say, there's a reason why we don't celebrate him, and it's not convenient. And that's why. And the bottom line is like what he says like contravenes what conventional norms are right now. And he says it really concisely. He says it specifically. He's well spoken, and unfortunately, he communicates so well that it's effective. And and it doesn't. Everybody wants something that makes us feel good and comfortable, but the bottom line is like life's not like that. Malcolm X just happened to deliver it in the way that it really was, and people don't really like it. And everybody can digest upon it, and then there's a reason why you don't hear about it a lot, in comparison to Martin Luther King. So it's not a lot, but it is what it is.
And any last solutions to leave us with for the audience? Any wise words from you?
Oh Lord, I mean, do everything what you've done. If you watch this show, for example, you got to be open to new ideas. And if you just tuned in, I mean, like, well, I've watched you guys for a minute. I've watched, you know what I mean, the panel and the topics, everything, got a lot of respect for it, Um, uh, the solution is to kind of like just be of the mind frame that the nature of the beast is what it is, but you have that little opportunity that you got just to like chime in, make a difference for somebody else, say hello to somebody, hold the door open, say good morning instead of hold a mean mug on somebody, and you realize that that might add up to something, and it might be bigger than you think.
Much love, brother. Appreciate you coming on. Come on anytime. Love you.
Hey, thank you so much, brother.
And then I want everybody to know I went to Cal State with this brother. He was my roommate my senior year after I got arrested. One of the top hurdlers in the world, headed to the Olympics. So this brother was dealing with me from all that. So honestly, this brother really helped save my life. He was there for me, when I went through a real traumatic situation. And so that's what it's all about, brotherhood, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. That's
I had a dream.
Amen.
And that's what we could talk about too, integration. Hey, who knows? We might not have met. So that's the beauty of this panel. And Lana, leave us with something, Oracle.
Goodness. What can I say? I don't know. Basically, in a nutshell, we're going to be going through some interesting times. I'd say have a sense of humor. Laughter is a part of medicine. You know, we're in a video game. If you look at it like that, you won't take everything so seriously. And again, like I say, and I always say, it really boils down to taking care of your temple. You know, you know what you're not supposed to do. You hear your ancestors speaking to you. You know if you're not supposed to eat certain foods. Everybody's supposed to eat different. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you can and cannot do. I just strongly suggest you know what you're supposed to do. I get DMs and phone calls all the time, and you know if you're not supposed to be eating certain foods, it's for a reason. It's because your ancestors are nudging at you, and they're telling you I'm telling you, you gotta vibrate at a certain frequency. If you're not going to make it, because it's powerful. And we've been lied to and bamboozled, and we have to accept it. And it starts with accepting it first is the most important. If we're in denial, we're never going to make it. But if you accept it, I've been bamboozled. Now I know what I need to do. I need to work out. I need to eat right. And I need to get my mind together. And from that point, you'll be guided into the right direction. We all got to unify, stick together so we can build and stop believing the BS, turn the TV off. We don't want to listen to all the negative frequencies anymore. So be blessed, please.
And as always, be sure to Murdoch played one of those VR videos. But we have the third installment. Remember, we have Jason Visits the Museum on Amazon. Then the first book about me with the ADHD, Jason Wins the Game. And then the third installment, Jason in the Lost Pyramid, that has officially been picked up as an animation series by Boom Animation. So we will officially have our first episode coming soon. So,
Yay.
and also, virtual reality has hit the Matrix University. Be sure to find us at thematrixuniversity.com, where we have one of the first virtual reality universities in the country, where we're collaborating with Morehouse College, other top virtual reality companies in the world, linking up with Meta to deliver education all over the world at the highest level, so our people are not left behind in the digital revolution. We have a virtual reality campus that goes K through 12, 360-degree field trips around the world so you can educate your family. Let's come together, uplift our minds. I am July, August, September, October, Jason Elm Street Williams. You're living in a Matrix hologram. I call it a video game. Let's wake up. Let's call the mothership, and let's see if we can get up out of here without no weird stuff. We're talking about intellectually, advance-wise, being picked up and being able to go to different land masses for those who are deserving not to deal with this BS anymore. There is a higher reality out there. I guarantee it. Jason, I plug back in once in a while to this video game to teach y'all. I'm back. Jason.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is the Matrix?
Start me from the top, man. Maybe it's the weed got me. Maybe it's these trees got me. Maybe it's these hoes got me. Maybe it's the stroll that got me. Maybe it's these clothes got me. Maybe it's these laws got me. Maybe it's my dogs got me. Maybe it's these bras got me. Maybe it's this man that got me. Maybe it's my clan that got me. Maybe it's my fam that got me. My plans, my plans. The Matrix, Matrix.
When I wake up in the morning. So right here, the Matrix University presents one of the geometry gamification virtual reality worlds. So students, families, and members of our organization worldwide have an opportunity to learn about geometry and shapes in a virtual reality setting. So
Welcome to the world-famous King Tut Museum. Be sure to respect the ancient relics. The ancient Egyptians were a magical people who built numerous beautiful, magnificent structures, like the world-famous pyramids and temples. No running inside. Scientists till this very day still do not know how the Egyptians built the pyramids.
I wonder, did aliens ever visit ancient Egypt?
Wow, look at that giant Egyptian statue. It looks just like you, Jason.
Thanks, Toby. You're a super cool friend. Imagine what the world would look like if I was the pharaoh.
Jason, you are daydreaming. Wake up.
Sorry, history got away from me.